Hey guys, my name is Ben, and if you have ever wanted to add ozone to your cold plunge to get the water really clean, then in today's video, I'm going to show you a DIY of how you can do that in about 10 minutes or less. Now, if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so, because those that have, I have saved them hundreds of dollars showing them how to actually put together a DIY water chiller for their cold plunge. And in this video, we're going to do that addition of the ozone, and it's going to be really seamless, very easy to do. If you've watched any of my videos, this water chiller setup for your cold plunge probably looks awfully familiar. And that's because I've created several different videos, one that has gotten over 85,000 views, and I appreciate you guys watching. And so part of this video is I'm assuming that you've already put together your own water chiller. You've followed my video before, and we're going to just do one slight small addition to this to add that ozone to the setup. And it's not going to be a whole lot of extra work. Typically, as far as the chiller goes, it's a 1/3 horsepower chiller that I show you that you can get off Amazon. Guys, those totally work. This one just happens to be a 1/2 horsepower chiller. Because I'm using the long pod right here from iPod, this has 126 gallons, so it's a little bit larger capacity water. That's why I have a 1/2 horsepower chiller hooked up to it. And just a side note, the long pod, if you're interested, this is just coming out just right now. That's a really cool thing. Check it out on, it's thepodcompany.com. So I do have the 1/2 horsepower chiller, and so you can kind of see here, if you've seen my videos, you know that I have the sediment filter coming right out of there. We have the pump over here. Of course, the pump goes into the chiller, and then we have the other line, the return line that goes back into the cold plunge right there. And all we're going to do is we're going to actually take this hose right here. So we have the pump down here, and we're going to take this hose right there, and we're essentially, all we're going to do is we're going to cut this in half, and we're going to actually put the ozone right there. So let me show you how that's going to be done. All right, so for this DIY, what we're going to use is we're going to use this Bayok Spa Ozone Generator. You guys can get this off of Amazon. This runs about anywhere from like $65 to $70. And I really like this kit in particular because it includes everything that you need from the hoses, okay? It has this Venturi, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, Venturi injector right there. So, and of course, it has all the other little attachments as well in the box. So that's why I kind of like this setup, because it has everything that you're going to need for this DIY. Now let's come over here. Let me show you basically how this is going to work. So we have the ozone generator right here, and I have some command strips on here. This has like some Velcro. This is just kind of temporary, and what I'm going to do, so this is actually going to stick right here on the side like that, and then that's going to actually feed into, and we're going to put the Venturi right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this hose, so I'm going to cut here and here, and just size it up, and so that this will go in line like that. And then what you do is you just attach the hoses right here, one down here to the ozone, and then the other is going to go into this little part right there. And then, of course, we'll use the hoses to get everything cinched up. So at this point, let's go ahead and get this hose taken off, and we're going to cut that in half and measure it to size. All right, so I measure the hose, and then I check to see where I want to cut it. So I cut the hose pieces down the side, and the hose is just actually going to slip right here onto the tips of the Venturi like that. And then, of course, we're going to put it onto the barb of the pump, and then, of course, the barb right up here of the water chiller. So let me go ahead and do that. And of course, guys, if you need any sort of like hose clamps, anything like that, definitely use those. We want to keep everything watertight. Once you have everything put together, this is basically what it should look like. So we have the hose right there, we have the Venturi, and then it goes into there. So very basic. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this hose, we're going to cut it to size. We're actually going to cut this in half, because in the middle of the hose, you want to add this little back pressure piece right here. And essentially what you just want to make sure that the water is, because this has a little stopper in it. So the water, if it comes this way, it'll stop and it won't go up into the ozone and ruin it. And you want to just make sure that you put this on the right way. So the best way to do that is to blow into both sides, okay? If you blow on this side and it stops, then that's good, because that's where this is the side that you want to put the water on. Okay, because again, you want the water to come here and stop. So if you blow through here, it should be clear, and that's going to be the ozone going into the water. This is what it should look like. So it's cut in half, and then I just have this backflow piece right there in the middle. From there, you just take the one side of the hose and you attach it right here, and then we have this little clamp that I'm going to clamp down, and then the other side will actually go right here to the bottom part of the ozone generator. Once you have the hoses on, this is essentially what the whole setup should look like. So very, very basic. And a few notes about this, guys. So I had told you that I put some Velcro on the back here to keep that on there, and that's just temporary. One thing that you can do, you'll notice that there is a place to actually put some screws right there. You can get self-tapping screws, and you could actually attach this to your chiller. if you do that, guys, what I'm going to suggest is that you take off the cover of the chiller and then go ahead and put the screws in, because there is the radiator underneath here, and you definitely don't want to screw anything up. You don't want to go into any sort of electronics, anything like that. So I'm going to say do that at your own risk by putting some screws in there. But this is going to work for right now. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is that this hose is better if you can kind of keep it slightly elevated from where the water is, and that's just to kind of keep any of the water out of the lines. Before we turn it on to test out, the last thing we need to do is just open up the lines one more time. Go ahead and open up those hoses, and let's go ahead and turn on the power. Immediately after turning on the water, we can see that we have really good flow coming out right there. And if you come over here, guys, one of the things the Venturi, what it does is it kind of actually creates a vacuum right here. And so you'll actually see here in the lines a lot of bubbles. So that is to be expected. Bubbles is a good thing. And so what it's doing is it's right down here, it's actually creating a vacuum, and it's actually sucking the ozone from the ozone generator. It'll suck it through here, and it'll incorporate it into the water. And that is it. That is how you actually incorporate ozone into your whole system right here. That's going to keep this water very, very clean. And let's go ahead and talk about keeping it clean. Now you have to understand that ozone is an oxidizer, so what that's going to do to all the contaminants and the bacteria is actually destroy them. And also it will happen to actually break down any kind of like body oils and things like that. And so it's something really, really good to add. One type of oxidizer that's really popular on the market, of course, is hydrogen peroxide. You get the food grade, you add that to it, and this is a very good way to keep your cold plunge clean as well. And so you might say, well, hey, do I still need to get a sanitizer and things like that for my cold plunge if I'm going to have, you know, this ozone? And I know some people don't. However, what the ozone is going to do is actually kind of facilitate that sanitation process. So if you're adding any sort of sanitizer to it, like SAUNA, like I always recommend, you can see that here, then this is actually going to extend the life of that sanitizer, and you're going to be able to use a lot less of it. So they kind of go hand in hand. One of the other questions you probably have about ozone is you're wondering, is it safe to use all the time? And guys, for liability purposes, I'm not going to say one way or the other. However, what I can tell you is that like a hot tub spa, for example, has ozone built in, and it runs all the time. And so when it's injected into the water, like I said before, it binds with it and it becomes safe. So that said, a lot of the companies, with the cold plunge companies, they actually recommend running the ozone for about an hour or two daily just to clean the water. And so for that, I would say go ahead and get like a smart plug and plug that into the ozone generator and just have it set up on a timer so that it will run daily just for about an hour or so. You know, anytime that I want to run a schedule on my cold plunge, on the chiller, or the ozone in this case, I do get something like this. This is just like a Wi-Fi plug to actually set this and just set it up on a schedule. And so I recommend you buying one of these. They're really helpful. Guys, there you have it. That was a very simple process, adding ozone to your DIY water chiller. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. You guys have been great, have added a lot to the conversation. If you do have any questions or comments about this particular build, go ahead and leave those comments down below. Also, any of the links to the ozone generators or anything else that I used in this video are in the link in the description, so go ahead and follow that. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next video.